Hello, Grumpies. Fans are, by their very nature, fanatical and passionate about the things they love. It doesn't matter whether it's Star Trek, Star Wars, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Doctor Who. Fans are fans, no matter what they're fans of. But when the thing they love turns to shit, they get intense about what's gone wrong and can't understand the dipshits who think that the shit version is still worth watching. And so they regenerate from a fan into an anti-fan, or even a grumpy old fan. Fandom today is split, divided between those of us who think that the Doctor should always be who he's always been, and those Ming-Mongs who think that the Doctor can be anyone or anything. That division was imposed on fandom deliberately and on purpose by Chris Chibnall, aided and abetted by Lefty Mufftwat and Russell C.U.N.T. Davies. That division will always remain. There is no breaching that divide. And so fans do what fans have always done. They make videos detailing why the shit version of something that used to be good is shit, and questioning why Ming-Mongs think the shit version is worth watching when anyone with half a brain knows that it's not. But then something happens that puts all of that in perspective and consigns it to irrelevance and insignificance. The surprise attack on Israel by the Arab terrorist group Hamas on the 50th anniversary of the Yom Kippur War makes the schism in Doctor Who fandom look like a nursery school food fight. But there are parallels. We didn't ask for this fight. It was imposed on us by the cultural Marxists. Similarly, Israel is under constant threat from Muslims who refuse to accept that it has a right to exist. Much like the Ming-Mongs in fandom, you can't negotiate with these people, as Paul Clark from Sanctuary of Geeks found out the hard way. Grumpy is unashamedly and unapologetically anti-abortion. Abortion is murder, no exceptions, fuck off. Grumpy is also pro-Israel, which makes me anti-Hamas, not anti-Arab. If you're not anti-Hamas and pro-Israel, you're either a Marxist or a cunt, or both. If you're a cunt, you're either an evil cunt or you're a stupid cunt. Only a complete cunt would tolerate or accept the bullshit of justified violence. If that's you, you're a cunt, and you can fuck off. So for the benefit of the Ming-Mongs who may be watching, here's the cut down complete history. Israel has always been the homeland of the Jewish people, and only the Jewish people have ever had Israel as their homeland. There's this book you may have heard of, but almost certainly haven't read, called The Bible. It talks about a fella called God, a bloke named Noah, a guy by the name of Abraham, and a fella called Moses, who gets the Jews out of slavery in Egypt, and, in time, they establish the nation of Israel in the land of Israel. Israel became a nation under first King Saul, then King David, the one who did for Goliath, and then King Solomon. After Solomon died, the nation split in two, north and south, and in time both halves were conquered and taken into captivity, which is where that Boney M song comes from. The Babylonian king Cyrus let the Jews return to Israel, but then the Romans came along, and it was when the Romans were in charge and occupying Israel that a bloke by the name of Jesus Christ, whom you may have heard of, got nailed to a cross. The later Jewish rebellion against the Romans didn't work. The Romans destroyed the Jewish temple in 70 AD, and the majority of Jews, but not all, were scattered throughout the world in what's called the diaspora, the dispersion, and persecuted wherever they went. It was the Romans who then called the land Palestina, land of the Philistines, as a calculated insult to those insurrectionist Jews, and the name stuck, even though there never was and never has been a nation called Palestine. The land was left to rot and, as Mark Twain famously described it, turned to a desert, inhabited only by nomadic Bedouins and the small number of Jews who stayed behind. Fast forward past the Spanish Inquisition, the original anti-Semite Martin Luther, and the invention of Islam to the start of the 20th century, and we get to the First World War and the Balfour Declaration. Christian Zionism, along with the Dreyfus Affair, not the James Dreyfus, a different Dreyfus, saw Britain begin the slow process of returning the Jews to their homeland, the upshot of which was that General Allenby took Jerusalem from the Ottoman Turks without a shot being fired, and the British Empire was now in charge of, air quotes, Palestine. By the time a certain Austrian house painter came along and exterminated 6 million Jews for the crime of being Jews, the British had made a complete arse of being in charge of the land of Israel, which is putting it mildly given how they drew lines in the sand with the bloody French. When the Second World War was over, Israel was finally established as a nation by the United Nations, and, shamefully, Britain abstained in the vote that made it happen. What follows is an ongoing series of attacks on Israel by the Arab nations that surrounded it, and an evil cunt by the name of Yasser Arafat, who invents the deception of the Palestinians that the BBC and others have perpetrated ever since. There are no occupied Palestinian territories because there never were any Palestinian territories because there are no Palestinians. The Gaza Strip was controlled by Egypt, and the West Bank was controlled by Jordan, two of the three nations, along with Syria, that attacked Israel in the Six-Day War of June 1967. So Israel gained territory in a war it did not start. It was Egypt's Colonel Nasser who did that. And unlike any nation in history, Israel was told to give it back. When it didn't give it back, this territory that it gained in a war it didn't start, and why the fuck should they were thereafter referred to as occupied territories, which is bollocks. The big lie of the anti-Semitic Marxist left is that collective guilt over the Holocaust saw the Palestinians kicked out of Palestine so the Jews could turn Palestine into Israel. That is complete and utter bullshit. And if you believe that lie, and if you propagate that lie, you're either an evil cunt or a stupid cunt who knows fuck all about fuck all. Hamas are terrorists. They are scum. And if you can't bring yourself to condemn them for what they've done, you are as evil as they are. And you can fuck off. Until the next time, resist those Marxist bastards. Don't be a sheep, and for fuck's sake, stay grumpy. Because there's a lot to be fucking grumpy about.